that maybe Tom was right about her limitations and failures. Maybe she was being unreasonable by expecting his family to accept her as she was. Maybe she needed to try harder to change fundamental things about herself if she wanted their marriage to work and their relationship to survive. She quit her teaching job and took a position at a marketing firm that paid significantly more money but made her miserable every single day. The work felt meaningless compared to helping children learn, but Tom praised her decision and told her how proud he was that she was finally taking their future seriously. For a few weeks, Kate thought maybe things would improve now that she was earning more money and could contribute more substantially to their household finances. But the Harrisons found new reasons to criticize and reject her. Patricia complained that Kate didn't understand office politics well enough to advance quickly in her new career. Richard pointed out that her salary was still significantly lower than what Jessica earned working for the family business. Tom started suggesting that maybe Kate should consider getting an MBA or pursuing additional professional certifications that would make her more valuable in the business world. Nothing Kate did was ever enough to satisfy their impossible expectations. Every achievement was dismissed as inadequate. Every effort was criticized as insufficient. She felt like she was running on a treadmill that kept speeding up, desperately trying to reach a finish line that moved further away every time she thought she was making progress toward earning their acceptance and approval. The final humiliation came during a family dinner at the Harrison mansion 6 months after Kate had started her new job. She had just received a promotion and small raise that she was excited to share with Tom's family, thinking maybe this would finally prove she was serious about building a successful career. She waited for the right moment in the conversation to announce her good news, hoping to see approval in their faces for once. Instead, Richard interrupted her announcement to say that he had been thinking about their situation and he had a proposal that would solve everyone's problems. He explained that the family business was expanding into new markets and needed reliable employees who understood the importance of loyalty and hard work. He offered Kate a position working directly under Jessica's supervision, handling administrative tasks and basic client communications. The job would pay slightly more than her current position, Richard explained, but more importantly, it would bring her into the family business where she could finally contribute something meaningful to their shared success. Kate felt a mix of hope and dread as she listened to his offer. Part of her was excited about the possibility of finally being accepted into the Harrison family inner circle, but another part of her recognized the trap being laid out in front of her. Tom was enthusiastic about his father's proposal, telling Kate how lucky she was to get this opportunity to prove herself worthy of being part of their family legacy. Patricia smiled that cold smile and said how wonderful it would be to have Kate where they could keep an eye on her progress and help guide her professional development. Jessica looked pleased about the prospect of having direct authority over Kate's work performance and daily activities. Kate realized in that moment that accepting the job would mean giving up the last pieces of her independence and identity. She would be completely under the Harrison family's control, working for them, living according to their standards, and losing any hope of maintaining her own sense of self-worth and personal autonomy. But she felt trapped by the expectations and pressure surrounding her. Tom made it clear that refusing his father's generous offer would be seen as a rejection of the entire family and their attempts to include her in their success. She agreed to take the job, not because she wanted it, but because she didn't see any other choice if she wanted to save her marriage and maintain her relationship with Tom. What happened next would change everything Kate thought she knew about the Harrison family and her place in their world. The job turned out to be exactly the nightmare she had feared it would become. Working for the Harrison family business was like walking into a carefully designed trap that closed around Kate slowly, day by day, until she could barely breathe. Jessica made it clear from Kate's first morning that this wasn't going to be the fresh start and family acceptance that Tom had promised. Instead, it was an opportunity for the Harrisons to control every aspect of Kate's professional life while making her feel grateful for the privilege of being exploited by people who had never respected her. Jessica assigned Kate to a windowless office in the basement of their corporate building, explaining that all new employees started at the bottom and worked their way up through demonstrated loyalty and competence. Kate's official title was administrative assistant, but her actual responsibilities included everything from filing paperwork and answering phones to cleaning the break room and organizing supply closets. She was basically an overpaid janitor with a business degree, doing work that could have been handled by a high school student. The other employees treated Kate with a mixture of pity and suspicion. They knew she was the boss's daughter-in-law, but they could also see how Jessica spoke to her during meetings and how Richard ignored her contributions to team discussions. Kate occupied a strange position in the office hierarchy, where she was simultaneously connected to the family that owned everything and completely powerless to change her circumstances or improve her treatment. Jessica seemed to take personal pleasure in assigning Kate the most tedious and humiliating tasks available. She would ask Kate to reorganize filing systems that had just been organized the week before, or demand that Kate stay late to prepare presentation materials that were never actually used in meetings. When clients visited the office, Jessica made sure Kate was busy with cleaning tasks or stuck in the basement handling paperwork, keeping her away from any important business discussions or networking opportunities. The psychological torture was worse than the meaningless work assignments. Jessica would praise Kate's efforts in front of other employees, then privately criticize everything she had done and demand that she start over with different specifications. She would give Kate impossible deadlines, then act disappointed when Kate couldn't meet them, suggesting that maybe Kate wasn't as committed to the family's success as everyone had hoped she would be. Tom didn't see any of this happening because Jessica was careful to maintain her sweet, supportive act whenever he was around. During family dinners, she would tell Tom how hard Kate was working and how much she appreciated having someone so dedicated to learn the family business from the ground up. Tom would beam with pride, thinking his wife was finally finding her place in his family's world, while Kate sat silently knowing that speaking up about Jessica's behavior would only make things worse for everyone involved. The breaking point came during a major client presentation that the family had been preparing for months. Richard was trying to secure a development contract worth $50 million, and every detail of the presentation had to be perfect to impress the potential investors. Kate had spent weeks helping prepare materials, double-checking facts and figures, and organizing documents that would support their proposal. The night before the presentation, Jessica asked Kate to stay late and make final copies of all the presentation materials, ensuring that every investor would have a complete packet of information. Kate worked until nearly midnight, carefully collating documents and checking every page for errors or missing information. She was exhausted but proud of her contribution to what could be the biggest deal in the family's business history. The next morning, Kate arrived at the office early to find Jessica in a panic. The presentation materials were completely wrong, she claimed. The financial projections were outdated, the property surveys were for the wrong development site, and the investor information packets were missing crucial legal documents. Jessica accused Kate of sabotaging the presentation through carelessness and incompetence, threatening to ruin a $50 million deal through her stupidity and lack of attention to detail. Kate was confused and devastated. She had triple-checked everything the night before, and all the materials had been correct when she left the office. She tried to explain this to Jessica, but Jessica was already calling Richard and Tom to report the crisis and Kate's alleged responsibility for the disaster that was unfolding. Richard arrived at the office furious and ready to fire Kate immediately. Tom looked disappointed and ashamed, like Kate had personally betrayed him and everything his family stood for. Jessica played the role of concerned family member perfectly, expressing regret that Kate had let everyone down but suggesting that maybe this kind of high-pressure work environment wasn't suitable for someone with Kate's limited experience and questionable commitment to excellence. Kate realized in that moment that Jessica had deliberately sabotaged the presentation materials after Kate had finished preparing them correctly. She had switched out the documents overnight, replacing accurate information with outdated files and incomplete packets, then blamed Kate for the problems when they were discovered. It was a calculated act of sabotage designed to destroy Kate's credibility and justify her removal from the family business. But Kate couldn't prove what had happened, and nobody would believe her accusations against Jessica, even if she tried to defend herself. The Harrison family had already decided Kate was responsible for nearly destroying their biggest business opportunity, and nothing she said would change their minds about her guilt and incompetence. Tom drove Kate home in complete silence, his jaw clenched with anger and disappointment. When they reached their apartment, he finally exploded with months of accumulated frustration and resentment. He told Kate that he was tired of making excuses for her failures and embarrassed by her inability to meet his family's reasonable expectations. He said she had proven that she would never fit into their world, and he was done pretending that love could overcome her fundamental inadequacies as a partner and family member. The divorce papers were served 3 days later. Tom's lawyer had prepared everything quickly and efficiently, offering Kate a minimal settlement that would barely cover her moving expenses and first month's rent somewhere else. The prenuptial agreement she had signed before their wedding protected all of Tom's assets and family money, leaving her with practically nothing after 3 years of marriage and emotional abuse. Tom's family made it clear that Kate was no longer welcome anywhere near their property or business operations. Patricia called to inform Kate that her presence at family gatherings had always been uncomfortable for everyone involved, and they were relieved to finally be able to socialize without worrying about her inappropriate behavior or awkward attempts to fit in with people who were obviously out of her league. Jessica sent a formal letter through the family's legal team, stating that Kate was banned from contacting anyone associated with the Harrison business empire and threatening legal action if she attempted to interfere with their operations or spread malicious rumors about her treatment as an employee. The letter made it sound like Kate was some kind of dangerous criminal rather than a kindergarten teacher who had tried her best to make an impossible marriage work. Richard's contribution was the cruelest cut of all. He had Kate's final paycheck delivered by courier along with a note explaining that her employment termination was due to gross incompetence and professional misconduct. He suggested that she might want to consider returning to elementary education, since she clearly lacked the intellectual capacity and emotional maturity required for serious business work. Kate found herself completely alone for the first time in years, sitting in a tiny studio apartment that was all she could afford on short notice, surrounded by the few belongings that Tom had allowed her to take from their shared home. Most of her possessions had been left behind because Tom claimed they were purchased with his family's money and therefore belonged to him rather than her. She had her clothes, a few books, some kitchen items, and an old jewelry box that had belonged to her grandmother, containing a few pieces of costume jewelry and sentimental items from her childhood. Everything else that had defined her life for the past 3 years was gone, stripped away by people who had never valued her as anything more than an inconvenient obstacle to their family's success and social status. Kate spent the first week after her divorce crying almost constantly, grieving not just the end of her marriage but the complete destruction of her self-confidence and sense of worth as a person. She had given up everything that mattered to her trying to please people who were determined to reject her no matter what she did or how much she sacrificed for their approval. Her teaching career was in ruins because she had quit her position to work for the Harrison family business. Her friendships had withered away during the years she spent trying to transform herself into someone Tom's family might eventually accept. Her savings were depleted from buying expensive clothes and taking business classes that were supposed to make her more worthy of their respect. She felt like she had lost herself completely in the process of trying to become someone else. But sometimes the darkest moments in our lives are actually preparation for the most incredible transformations we never saw coming. Kate was about to discover that her grandmother's old jewelry box contained something that would change everything she thought she knew about her family history and her own future possibilities. Late one night, unable to sleep because of stress and anxiety about her uncertain future, Kate decided to go through her grandmother's jewelry box more carefully than she had ever done before. She was looking for anything of value that she might be able to sell to help cover her living expenses until she could find a new job and rebuild her life from scratch. Most of the contents were exactly what she expected to find: a few pieces of costume jewelry, some old photographs, and small mementos from her grandmother's life. But at the very bottom of the box, tucked underneath the fabric lining, Kate found something that didn't belong with the other items. It was an envelope with her name written on it in her father's handwriting, yellowed with age and sealed with wax that had hardened over many years of waiting. Kate's hands shook as she carefully opened the envelope, wondering why her father would have hidden a letter in her grandmother's jewelry box and how long it had been waiting there for her to discover it. She had no idea that inside that envelope was information that would transform her from victim to victor in the most spectacular way possible. The letter would reveal secrets that had been kept from Kate her entire life, secrets that would give her the power to turn the tables on everyone who had treated her like she was worthless and undeserving of respect. The Harrison family was about to learn that the woman they had discarded like garbage was actually worth more money